and we're going to talk about never waste a good crisis. You know, when COVID came out, I immediately on Friday the 13th, which was March 13th, 2020, I was in Orlando that day, and I was about to go on that cruise. You remember that cruise ship that went out during COVID and got stuck out there for like a month or two, and they wouldn't let them come back? I was supposed to have been on that cruise ship with Trisha Ben, our CEO for the C-Suite Network, and we were going to do a couple of speeches as part of this real estate group that was meeting, one of our other masterminds, and we would have got stuck. And we came back and we decided we're not going to go on the ship. And that day was the day they shut down Walt Disney World. And you know stuff gets real when Disney World shuts down. So I knew it was going to be tough. And so it was that weekend as I got home to South Dakota, our ranch in South Dakota with my wife. And I said, boy, we've got to do something about this. I don't know, what should we do? What should we do? And I just said, look, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a nurse. I can't even sew a mask, but we've got to be business first responders. And so we said, hey, we're not just going to survive this thing. We've got to help people thrive. And I wrote a New York Times editorial all around that this is what we have to do as businesses. And so when this started bubbling up, there's some folks that are here that are part of our thought council, real thought leaders, reached out to them and said, look, let's go out and knock out some successful strategies to thrive in a recession, because one should learn that we should never waste a good crisis. Even during COVID, as bad as it was, there were great opportunities for great businesses, as there are in the things that we'll see. You know, Linda mentioned I'm a former host of Bloomberg. I'm a former Fortune 100 officer. I bought and sold a couple hundred businesses. But by and large, I'm a marketer, and I love to sell things. I love to run businesses. I love to start things. And then usually I move on to other things, and I get great people who are part of my organization and say, hey, you go run this, and then I go start something else. But by and large, what I do is I see things and then talk about the things that I see and then experience and give counsel, not advice. Advice is usually given by people who never have done it before. What I try to do is offer counsel from people who have been in the C-suites, lessons from the C-suite, and then see different things. I don't know, today, I cut a television segment today where I try to pick a typical topic that's in the news. I don't know if you saw this, but get this. Air New Zealand is now announced that they're going to start to weigh their passengers before they get on a plane. Okay, who's here from Australia? If you fly in Air New Zealand, this is going to be funny. Can you imagine? Because they want to make sure that they plan where you seat for weight distribution. Now, if you're in a small plane of like 8 people, I get that. But if you're in a 747, I'm worried now when I get up to go to the bathroom, I might actually, am I going to put the plane into a tailspin? I don't know. This could be a big problem. What happens when they wheel the cart of beverages down the aisle? What's going to happen with that? I mean, this is nuts. And they say that they're going to keep it private. Oh, give me a break. When they come up and ask me to move from seat 36C to seat 12B, everybody's going to go, there goes the fat guy. Okay, I know that's what's going to happen. That's what's going to be thinking. Weight distribution. It wasn't because I volunteered. It's because they made me. Anyway, they got to get this thing figured out. It's a bunch of crap. And all they're trying to do is for fuel efficiency to be able to do certain things. And quite frankly, if they have to move a couple of people, okay, on the plane in order to make it fly safe, we probably shouldn't be getting on the plane. That's all I got to say. That's what I do. All right, let's talk about this. I had 5 great people, which in a moment, yeah, here we go. I had some great economic experts, John Silva, Daniel Martino Booth. She worked for the Fed. John Silva used to be the head of the economist for Wells Fargo. Mary Kelly, economist, former commander in the United States Navy. Mark Skosin, who's the great grandson of Benjamin Franklin, one of the biggest economists in the world. Dan Burrus, a futurist, and Art Laffer, who, by the way, was Reagan's economic advisor. And if you've ever heard of the Laffer curve, that's the people that I interviewed for my television show, which is out right now, and then formed the basis of some of the stuff that we're going to talk about. In fact, one of the great quotes that came from Art Laffer was never catch a thrown knife. When I asked him about what's coming with the recession, he said, Jeff, one should never catch a thrown knife. So this is what we've seen, or what's going on right now. And there's some real issues that we have to face. We got an inflation rate of 10.5% last 5 years. The U.S. inflation rate's increased. We've had 150,000 companies that closed due to the pandemic between 2020 and 2021. We have a labor gap, which we all have seen of skilled workers. I mean, where are these people going? What's happening to them? And what we're seeing now is the tail end of that baby boom, which is my age, of people who are just saying, no, I've lost my job. I'm not having a job. I don't want to work like this. And boom, I'm out. And a lot of people who are actually turning to running their own businesses. So there's less people to work because they're doing business in a different way. And obviously, we've seen a report in revenue has dipped over time. So we've had some great experts in terms of the business, but we're going to see some new things. And so I just think it's a great way for us to be able to look. Now, I also wrote an ebook, which we're going to share that with you for those that would like a free copy of the ebook. And I've got some great thought leaders. I see a couple of the folks here. Dan Silverberg's here. Kathleen Caldwell is here. And they all contributed to this great book that we have out that's free for you, any member, because you're a member of Leadership Her Council. So we got to get that for you. But I want to talk a little bit about what did we see in this thing. Oh, excuse me, if I can go back. Let's see if I can do that. There we go. Gosh, darn it. There we go. Fabulous. Sorry, my computer is acting up a little bit. Now, listen, when we're leading our businesses, if we're in the C-suite, our job isn't to be the smartest person in the room. Because not that I'm looking around and making this assessment, but I know that when I've been in the room with C-suites, some of the greatest C-suites in the world, our job is to be the most strategic people in the room. And that's what we try to do here in the C-suite. And so we have to be able to focus in on being prepared. And that's the one key thing that we should be looking at on being prepared for our businesses is what to do next and how to do it. Okay. So I always said, and of course, Linda kind of reiterated to this, has been my options have been one thing. That's it. One thing, one theme, three options. You have to adapt your business. You have to change your business or you're going to die. And the key thing is to be relentless while we're doing it. And so when we look back over history, because what we find during economic times, all of economics, is that it's cyclical in nature. It's up, it's down, it's up, it's down, and we can follow certain paths. And so if you can remember, I can remember back to 2007, I'm sitting in the boardroom of Eastman Kodak for an executive meeting where we got 5 or 6 officers that are in the room at this massive round table. I used to call it the Knights of the Round Table because that's how it was, a huge table that was like 20 feet across, round table in our boardroom. And in walked the CFO, and he was one of the few CFOs I've ever liked in all the companies that I worked in because he just really got sales, he got marketing, he got the understanding of when you cut budgets, sales go down. When you invest in advertising, sales go up. And so he walked in and he was ashen. And I thought, he had some heart problems before in his when he was at his last company. So I thought, well, maybe he's having a heart attack. I said, Frank, are you okay? He goes, not good, Jeff. It's not good. I go, what's the matter? We need to call an ambulance. He goes, no. It's not that kind of bad. It's he had just gotten back from seeing the silver prices and what it was going to be. And he knew based on silver prices, because when we bought silver, we could move the markets. And he saw some certain things going on. He said, it's going to be bad. He said, it's going to be really bad. So he predicted in the third quarter of 2007, boom, this is going to be worse than we've ever seen before, going into 2008, which of course many of us realized. Well, it's not going to be that bad. We don't have to panic in terms of the things that we're going to see because it's just not that bad. What we've also seen is that even during worse times, bad times of recessions, look at some of the greatest companies that have been founded during that time period. So there's some inspiring success stories. Back in 1907, General Motors. 1939, at the height of the Depression, Hewlett-Packard was founded. In 1953, 50s weren't all that great. Burger King was founded. 1958, a recession that we had in 1958, Hyatt Hotels. 1973, during the oil crisis from 73 to 75 and the recession that followed, that led into Jimmy Carter's days, but Trader Joe's, Apple's, back in 1980, CNN was born, and for some of us that can remember that, in 2002, MailChimp was born. And then if you look in 2008, during that dark period of most recent times, look at what some of the growth of some of these companies were. So when we're going to have bad times, I want you to tell there's good times. Dollar Tree grew by 60%, H&R Block by 26%, Walmart 20%, Alaskan Air 17%, Hasbro Toys 17% during a recession, okay? So there's opportunities. And other key categories were kind of like really hot during that time. Children's goods, trucking, healthcare, grocers, restaurants, do-it-yourself, financial advisors, cybersecurity, the pet industry, the tech support, debt collection, and accountants. Of course, you can imagine that because, people couldn't pay their bills as much. We had the housing crisis they hit. And so it was a little tough, but there are growth categories. So what I'm trying to get you ready for is to understand, even during a recession, even if there's dark times, and again, let me stress that nobody has yet said, although there might be one person here who is a friend of mine who might speak up on this, who thinks it's going to be a little bit worse than what it is. Dan, I won't mention any names. But there are some people, just give you as an initial, DS. All right, now, there's some people who say it might be a little worse than what it's going to be, but everybody I've talked to from an economic perspective, these are people that are experts. They're saying it's not going to be as bad as that, but it's still not going to be great for everybody. But there's always hope. There's always good things, because during bad times, it births great innovation. So think about the companies that were born during that. Groupon, remember Groupon? You remember when Groupon was offered $2 billion? I remember being on Fox Business that night when they were offered $2 billion and the CEO turned it down. I said, this will become one of the biggest and stupidest mistakes a CEO has ever made, because he turned it down. How many of you bought from Groupon in the last year? Let me know. Yeah, okay, a couple of you. All right, Cecilia, Dan, you guys are anomalies. The rest of you guys haven't bought. I mean, come on, I'm just goofing around. All right, Square, Venmo, these are great companies that were spawned from this kind of recession. So there's good opportunities. And then look at some unicorns. We all love unicorns. Back in 1975, Microsoft, 1982, Electronic Arts, iRobot, 1990. Of course, they're so hot right now. I just bought one of their Scoombas. I love that. It mops my floors all the time. I love that. I love a clean floor. Slack was born. How about Airbnb? Who would have thought? Think about this. 20 years ago, you would actually let someone rent your house and sit naked on your couch, and they would pay you for it. I mean, you would never think something like that. And there's a great business that was born. WhatsApp, Square, Uber, Instagram, Pinterest. All of these were born during bad times, great opportunities. And, I can remember sitting in that boardroom, and we drew this out in terms of what was the thing to look at. One time we were sitting in the boardroom, and my CEO got up and drew a circle on the board at Kodak. And he said, this is the cash business, this is the future business, and he said, this is the marginal business. And the cash business was really the things of the past, and the business of the future. That was where we were going, right? And the marginal businesses, meaning if we had 19 or 20 business divisions at the time, and he said, of these that are marginal, like these 3 or 4 businesses that we had, he goes, you have to be this tall before you get on the ride. So you had to hit a certain amount of profitability, certain amount of sales, a certain amount of IRR or net realized rate on profitability, or it had to be extremely strategic, and you proved that you could be strategic. And he goes, what does everybody think about that? And I raised my hand in the meeting, and he goes, Jeff, you don't have to raise your hand. You're one of the senior officers of the company. He goes, what do you think? I said, ladies and gentlemen, excuse my language, but this is exactly what I said. I said, it's the best fucking chart I've ever seen anybody write. He goes, well, Jeff, why do you say that? I said, you just gave me my marching orders. You gave me the direction of what we need to do. If you're a cash business, means we are not making any investment in you. It means we're going to mine you for as much as we can. If you're a marginal business, you have to be this tall, and you have to get there by a certain period of time. Whatever those conditions of satisfaction are, that's what it's going to be. And then here's our future business. I'm doubling down. It doesn't make a difference. There are Fair Harold children. We'll buy everything. We'll buy their school book for them. The other children won't get to eat. Whatever we have to do, that's our future. That's where we're going, and they could do no harm. You've just given me the outline that I'm going to apply across the entire business as quick as possible to say this is what our guidelines are for running the business. And that's what we have to start to think of. In our business, we're going to have to start to look at those things that are marginal for us, those things that are cash business that we get to mine, and those things that we've got to look at in our future and start to invest even in bad times, because it's going to be good for us. So we have to identify what I call the common enemy. So we know that the recession is inevitable. We're not going to miss it. It's going to hit you, and it's going to hit you late this summer. I'm in Miami right now, where we're going to go out and buy a 25 to 50,000 square foot building. And we were going to buy that building under contract a month ago, until we really looked at the economic situation and said, no, we're not buying that. And the reason we're not buying it right now is we think in August, September, the buildings are going to go down. Prices are going to go down. And given that, we're going to save ourselves $4-5 million by waiting just a few months, right? So we know that's coming. You have to make sure you get team alignment. If you have members of your team or partners along your team, you have to get alignment about what you're going to do and how you're going to do it. Third thing you have to focus on, and I've said this since the first book I've ever written, that mood is the most important, not culture, mood. All right. Cultures are things that take a long period of time to be able to happen, but it will tell you mood is what will affect your business. And then certainly, last but not least, you have to communicate. That is outwardly bound to your customers and certainly to your team or partners that you're working with. And then we have to look at the money, honey. And what I mean by that, we have to trim our sales. What things can we do without? What things can we trim? What can we do? Recently just consolidated home, right? And so moved a bunch of stuff back home. And the first thing my wife and I did was we went through the closet and started tossing out everything. In fact, a good friend of mine has this rule where he only has 100 pieces of clothing. I thought, well, I can't do that. I've got 100 jackets alone, right? That I've had. But what I went through is I started cleaning things out, and it made me feel good. What about doing the same thing in your business? What subscriptions can you do without? What kind of things can you cut off? Do you need this? Do you need that? I just recently made a decision. We own a building in Sioux Falls, South Dakota for the IBM, and our offices are in that building as well. I'm going to see if somebody wants to rent the whole thing and let everybody work from home. I'm okay with that. All right. 2-3 years ago, I wasn't okay with that. But today, I've proven that we can do it. I can do that. Mergers and things that can complement that. What is it I can look at that I can go and maybe partner with somebody else that's on this call where we can come together and do some business together? How about X as a service? Dan Burris, great futurist, one said, I was talking about how I'm going to build this C-suite network, how we're going to do this. And I was lamenting, I got to go hire this. I got to go do this. I got to invest in this. And he finally turned to me and said, Jeff, X is a service. I said, Dan, what the hell you mean X is a service? What does that mean? He goes, why do you have to start it yourself? Why can't you partner with someone and then call it something else? Which good example is we have C-suite loans, we have C-suite trading, C-suite legal, C-suite, all run by great partners with our name because we have a great brand and we've got good people, great partners who can run it under our name. All right. Now, I'm also going to be doing a program coming up here called Base Hits versus Home Run. It's important for you to hit lots of little hits. Don't just you can keep swinging for the rafters, right? But, quite frankly, it's the base hits that's going to get you there faster and quicker, especially if you're working with bigger businesses. Okay. Now, and last but not least is you need to network. You need to show up for as many of these kinds of events as possible. Get to know each other. Get to network. Try to mingle at 3 people. Last night I had an event dinner in Miami, and while I'm sitting at the bar having a scotch, I run into 3 people who are now joining the C-Suite network. It's amazing. And all because, I networked. I was networking with 4 other people, and I got there early, got to meet some other people. They ended up joining us for dinner. Now they're all becoming members of the C-Suite network. Network. You never know where that's going to be. All right. And then through thick and thin, all right, think about this, save the whales. Everybody should understand what the Pareto principle. It applies for everybody all the time. I rarely see that the Pareto principle is not something that happens, and that means loyalty always pays. 80% of your business comes from 20% of your customer base, give or take. All right. You should be focusing on that 20% more and more and trying to find more 20%ers that represent 80% of your business. So you focus on saving the whales. Okay. Really spend your time, because what would happen if you lose that 1 or 2 or 3 big clients that you have? Okay. That would be devastating, because you usually get a lot more revenue from those. Double down. That is, find ways to advertise, get out there, do more to find the people you want. Circle the wagons around the customers you have by paying special attention and giving them lots of love. Okay. That might mean some extra hours, but it pays off. We did this during COVID. During COVID, it completely flipped the business model we had for the C-Suite network. But yet we grew during that time period, and we made money, and we survived, and we helped a lot of other people survive. So you circle the wagons by going to all your customer base and seeing what more you can do. Because why? 54% of your customers will do more business with you today. That's a fact. 54% of the customers you're working with today will do more business. All you have to do, circle the wagon and really focus in on. And then you have to answer the door, okay? You're going to have opportunities that are going to come to you. I talk about Bubba. Bubba is this guy I write about in my book. who wanted all of his life to win the lottery. Kept winning. You see the lottery come up, he will win the lottery. Oh God, please let me win the lottery. Oh God, please win the lottery. Go to church on Sunday and pray. And then Wednesday came, didn't win the lottery. He's, oh, woe is me, what's going on? So he prays the rest of the week. Sunday comes, and Saturday night, the lottery, he doesn't win. Sunday goes to church, he prays again. He goes and it doesn't win on Wednesday. And he says, what's wrong? So he prays again. And then Saturday doesn't win the big lottery. It's $1 billion, doesn't win. Sunday goes to church, gets down on his knees. God, what's wrong with me? Have you forsaken me? Why don't you let me win the lottery? What's wrong? Why have I done? What have I done that's so bad? And finally, God speaks to him and he hears his voice. And God says, Bubba, buy a ticket. Okay. So sometimes you have to learn to buy the ticket. Okay. It's important for you to be able to take the time to find the things and take a few chances during these times is to go buy that ticket to win the lottery, hit the big stuff. Okay. So, and I'm always out there like find the pony. I take almost literally the team with Linda will tell you this. The team will tell you this. I take every email, I take every phone call. And sometimes people say, Jeff, why are you doing it? I'm looking for the pony. I'm looking for the pony. You never know where the pony's going to show up, right? It's like giving a speech. I gave a speech at an event one time. This guy comes up to me and says, Jeff, I'd like to have you serve on my board. Tell me the name. What do you do? How many people you got? Well, you got 18 people. What's the name of your company? It's called DocuSign. Really? Seriously, tell me more about the company. I went on their board. And then, of course, 2 years ago, we went public for $21 billion. Find the pony. Okay? And then also look to transform yourself, transform your business, invest in you. Okay? It's a great time where you invest in you. You don't take a scarcity mindset, you take an abundance mindset, and you invest in yourself in order to transform and make the things happen that you need. And this is a perfect thing to be a part of a mastermind, to be part of a peer-to-peer council is spot on. And last but not least, hey, you want to make sure you're never retreating. In this page, this is not, you want to keep going forward. It might not always be in the direction that you want, but don't sit back on the couch eating bonbons right now. Okay? This is the time you put the helmet on, you put the flak jacket on, you put on your running shoes, and you run into the crisis as much as possible, because that's what's going to move people through. Everybody else is going to start being timid and mild, and they're going to be afraid of things. Look, fear only lasts for a couple of seconds. I mean, I don't know how many. Raise their hands. How many people scared of heights? Really scared of anybody scared of? I get a nosebleed if I wear 2 pairs of socks. Oh, come on. That is funny, people. Come on. You can laugh. All right. Thank you for one raise of hand there. All right. There's 2. All right. There we go. You know, and I was scared to death to jump on a high dive when I was a kid. You know, at 6, 7 foot off the water high dive, not like the 20 foot one like this. I'm telling you about just a little one. I was scared to jump up that. I remember going out there, getting up there, and I get up the top, my heart's beating like crazy. I'm 7, 8 years old. And then I get out to the edge, and I'm on the edge, and I've got my toes over the core, over the toe. And then I'm going, no, I'm not going to do it. I'm going to go back, except there's two other kids climbing up the ladder, and they're going to push me off anyway. So I finally decide to jump, and I jump. And then, 3 feet down, halfway down, I'm going, oh my God, this is exciting. I want to do this again, right? And so that fear that we have in these situations, it's natural. It's a human condition for all of us to have that fear. No different than the first time I met my wife, 5'1", 105 pounds across the room. I'm looking at her. I'm scared to death. I'm twice her size, and she's still scared the shit out of me today. Let's be clear. But, you have to take the action to move past that fear. And what would have my life had been had not overcome the fear to say, hey, would you go out with me? Hey, would you dance with me? Hey, would you, be my wife for the rest of my life? These are things we should never retreat from. So overcome the fear. It's a human condition, and you're gonna do well. Okay.